Yep, we are recording. Okay, so welcome to my podcast, The Accidental Entrepreneur. I see we connected on LinkedIn, right? And ProfitLayer is your business or your...
Here is my primary business. I kind of, as an entrepreneur, kind of like most of us have my hands in a little bit of everything, but
Right, sure.
yeah, ProfitLayer is really my focus right now.
Okay, so my podcast, I don't know if you looked it up, but it's a, long format interview style, so perfect for this type of event. But maybe we want to go back a little bit because I don't know what your background is, where you're from,
Sure.
and how you got into, what made you become an entrepreneur, and then maybe we can share some ideas that'll help the listeners get a hold of their businesses.
Sure. Sounds good to me.
Okay, let's go back. What were you born in a log cabin near Lincoln or something like that?
Kind of, so I'm in Southern California now, just for contrast, but basically I was born and raised in rural West Virginia.
Okay.
My dad was actually a coal miner. My family was not really entrepreneurial at all, and obviously being in rural West Virginia, the opportunities there are limited.
Right.
It's a nice place, but very small towns.
We have a very good friend in Huntington. Is that kind of near where you were?
Yeah,
I mean, West Virginia's not that big to begin with, but yeah.
Huntington would actually be considered like the city part.
Right. That's not even rural, right?
Yeah. We're talking like rural, like in town, there's like maybe like a dollar store, right, one bank, one post office, and a gas station.
Yeah.
So you have to drive about an hour to get to
I'm outside of New York City, so I have no understanding of any of that stuff. But
yeah. And
right.
So, very small town, really, I always felt something different, growing up from a very young age, and I actually even, I guess, told my family, when I grow up, I'm going to move to, California, New York or somewhere,
right.
They were being realistic, thinking,
sure,
you're probably going to be a coal miner or work in a sawmill, or, those were kind of like
and that's typical, Tim.
There.
I mean, if you grow up and your dad's a plumber, there's a good chance, especially in the olden days, right, before the world was as connected as it is, that you would be a plumber, right? So what do you think was in you? You're in this small town, the world wasn't connected like it is today. Where'd that come from?
I don't really know. I know that I was always very, I'm an introvert, and I don't think that back then I really knew what that really meant. I just thought that I was shy.
Yeah.
So as an introvert, I process a lot of things, and I think that I just saw, back in the earliest
more
stages,
cerebral, right?
TV
reading things, seeing things. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like I remember in the summer, I used to go as like a kid, we'd go to the library, and I would go to like the business and self-help section, and I'm like, everybody's like, why do you read that stuff?
Right.
But I always just kind of felt that. And then once I got on the internet, that really opened my eyes to a lot of possibilities. And I just was really self-taught. And I think then it was really, at that point, it was kind of I'm going to prove that, I can do something else, and that I'm, going to make things happen. And so I started the first business in middle school.
Okay.
Doing computer repair.
Okay. Computer repair.
Yep.
Right.
And it was all self-taught.
Yeah.
I didn't know everything, but, I just looked at it as something where, if I can't fix your problem or figure it out, then I won't charge you for it. So
now this was back when?
So I'm 34 now. So this would have been, late 90s.
Okay.
Early 2000s.
I'm just getting out of law school at that point. So so we had, I guess there were still PCs in those days, right? You can crack them open and do all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. I learned how to build my own, and that was
but there was no YouTube. You couldn't like watch a video how to do it.
There was no social media. Yeah. Right. The most common, format then, there were message boards, and so
I remember. Yeah.
Message boards were a big thing. So started, that business, and I just kind of learned as I went, and, I was very curious, and just, so if I needed to know how to do something, I would research it and learn. So I kind of
Okay.
taught myself a lot about marketing then, put little display ads in the newspaper, flyers up, all that.
Yeah, that was like old school marketing. You couldn't just
Yeah.
post something online nowadays. It's
Then
different.
kind of pivoted into web design, because one of the things that I've discovered on the internet back then was that you could actually do business with people in other places.
Right.
So
It
I
was like
wasn't limited just to,
yeah.
my little area.
And that's a natural pivot in those days, right? Nobody was really building websites. Nobody knew what the hell to do with them. So
Yeah. And if websites back then, this was in the very, kind of, I guess it was kind of towards the end of the .com uh, bubble in a way, but it was kind of where websites were still not
yeah, it
easy
was
to get.
Netscape, right? Netscape and whatever Microsoft had, I
Yeah,
guess.
like Google wasn't even a
Right.
thing
Didn't
then.
exist. It was Yahoo
There were
mostly.
others.
Yeah.
Alta Vista,
Oh, I remember those.
you
Yeah,
know.
those search engines that never made it. That's true.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so I got into that, and I found it really easy to create websites, and I could easily charge thousands of dollars for it, and people would pay it, because if websites were not as, there weren't like all these builder tools and things back
Yeah,
then.
you could do it now yourself. Like there was an Instacart and Shopify and all this stuff. You just set it up and you have a store.
Yeah,
You had to
yeah.
program it, right?
So I started doing that, and especially basically after school, and in the summers, that really I just focused on that.
So you're all
So
self-taught HTML. You taught it yourself?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and I really focused on learning, all that, and so I didn't do a lot of the traditional. I kind of skipped, part of the high school childhood kind of stuff,
Right.
but it kind of worked out. So because from websites, so here I was basically um, by the summer of between middle school and high school, I was at six figures.
Right. Really?
um, and
Nice.
I haven't made less than six figures since. So it was really kind of a crazy situation. I got a lot of like media attention, and had a lot of interesting
Nice.
things, being both so young and making six figures, and most of the people that I was doing business with had no idea.
Right.
But then the second one, that really helped a lot, was just the fact that it was in a small town, so people in the town, that was very uncommon. So it was just like this local celebrity kind of status
Right,
there.
because you're in a small town. It's not like you're in New York City, so you get
Yeah.
some attention.
So then from there,
So you did that all through high school?
pretty much, but I made a big shift in the beginning of high school, where, the natural thing with, you have a website, you needed to have web hosting to go with
Right.
it.
Yeah, where the hell you
And
put it? In those days, you didn't like call up GoDaddy.
yeah, so, and that's the thing, like, this was before web hosting was an easy thing. I mean, there was no cPanel or anything like that back then. And for anyone that doesn't know, web hosting is just kind of like the server that the website is stored on,
Yeah.
and that's connected to the internet, kind of on the other side of where you are. So basically, I fell in love with that, because I realized that, wow, this money comes in every month.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like, once I set these
Recurring
people up,
income. Yeah. And
I
they
mean, if
need
they,
it. They don't use
yeah,
you, they're off the highway, right?
yeah, and that was kind of one of the first tastes of, like, getting away from trading time for dollars,
Right.
because I could set someone up, and unless they have a problem, I may not even talk to them, again, like, but they're going to pay every month.
Right.
So I was still doing, the websites, but then had the recurring income of the web hosting.
Was that
And
the HostGator I saw on your profile?
so I started out with my own smaller hosting company.
Okay.
And then eventually that led to basically joining a larger, after I graduated high school, joining a larger web hosting company and
So you
kind
like
of
kind of
folding.
merged your business in with them? Is that?
Yeah, kind of just like
Because I
folded
remember
it in,
HostGator. They were
and
pretty big. Yeah.
it took, took a position. And this was actually a company in upstate New York, but it turned out to be not really a good fit. I just didn't like the founder, and he didn't really like me. And
Mhm.
once we started working together, but I did move to New York from West Virginia, to upstate New
Okay.
York.
All right.
We're in Albany.
Okay.
And then, my friend had started HostGator
Oh, it was a
from his
friend of
dorm
yours.
room.
Got it.
We knew each other through an industry message board, web
Okay.
hosting talk.
Did he go
And
to University of Florida? Is that why it's HostGator?
uh, no, he went to Florida Atlantic FAU, but
Okay. So it was
only
in Florida. That's
for,
where the gator comes from.
yeah, but
Okay.
I don't even think he lasted a semester, because he ran into the same situation I did, because I looked at colleges and was kind of debating. I came very, very close, to going, and then I just thought, I'm making too much money. I
Yeah. A lot of
can't.
people in the tech world did that. Yeah,
I
exactly.
just said, for me, it was very hard to, because I was looking at, a lot of the schools, I would see, some of the liberal arts stuff and all that. And I'm just like, I don't want to have to
Right. You
take
wanted to do
classes
what
on
you're
all
doing.
this. I
Right.
just,
Exactly.
I was interested in the business stuff, but,
Yeah.
so I joined him, went down, like he just said, hey, you want to come down and help me grow HostGator? It seems like it's kind of taken off. I you have a lot of experience, so come down. So I went down. I was the first COO of HostGator.
Okay. Because I know
And that
HostGator got big,
was,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. I
And
remember
we had no
HostGator.
idea, I
Yeah.
remember back then, we literally, when I joined, I think we had like 9 people or so, but it was growing fast. And we ended up, I moved down to Florida, to Boca, where he was. It's just where he originally
Yeah.
grew
It's my
up.
wife's from that area. My brother-in-law lives down there.
Uh, and we found really fast that uh, it was hard to hire for tech type
Down in that part of the
positions.
country.
Yeah.
Especially
And the
then, it
cost of
wasn't a
living
mature
was
market
also
like it
high.
is now. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Right.
So we, within just like about 6 months of me moving there from New York, we moved everything to Houston. We just
Okay.
picked a city that, we thought was good
Was
for
growing, but lower cost of
cost
living
of
and
living,
right.
taxes, all that. And then that first year in Houston, we hired
Ton of
hundreds of
people, right?
people,
Yeah.
because it was all, it was all organic growth. There was no, outside funding, anything like that.
Sure. Well,
We
timing's
just
everything,
like,
right? Nowadays, it'd be impossible to do. There's so much competition, but then it was a feeding frenzy, right?
yeah, it was, a lot of it, there was a lot of timing, and, and then also we were just very focused on providing a really high quality customer experience, and just reinvesting everything back into the company and growing it. And, we had a pretty wild ride there. I mean, it was all good, but,
Yeah.
I was at the time, I guess, like 2021, and the founder of HostGator was 3 years older than me, so he would have
Okay.
been like 23.
Right.
So we just kind of had to figure things out as we went. But we got through that, and
Okay.
HostGator's doing well. A few years in, he basically asked me to start another company, because he wanted some diversification, because
Just
HostGator
for
was doing,
safety type of thing.
yeah, HostGator was doing extremely well, but he
Right.
was like, what if we could get hacked overnight, or
Yeah.
just all
Yeah.
these
Right.
crazy worst case thinking
Right.
kind of things. And so basically we made a deal where, he offered to, if I would go start another company,
Right.
he would basically provide an unlimited amount of funding
He'll
for
fund the
it.
thing. Right.
He just wants a minority stake.
Now, did you
And
were you an owner in HostGator too? Or
no,
just an employee?
no,
Okay.
no, I was not an owner in HostGator. I mean, whenever the company was sold, there were some
Bonuses and things like that.
things that were, a lot of people were very well taken care of.
Right. Yeah. Who
Put
did
it that way.
HostGator get sold to? event?
A company called Endurance International,
Okay.
and they are actually they own Bluehost, iPowerWeb,
So they're still in the
basically the
business.
top 10 sites.
Right. They own them.
Their whole goal was to go out and acquire as many players as they could.
Right.
Their business model is interesting because they um, basically still operate all the brands that they've acquired independently, and
Uh-huh.
they don't make it well known that they've acquired them. But behind the scenes, everything's the same. You're the same servers, the same support teams. It's just,
Right.
and they've actually figured out that oftentimes, like when someone cancels service, they switch to,
It's one of their companies.
yeah, and it's
So,
like, because they own like 8 out of the 10 on like the top 10 sites.
and you don't even know it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They spent about $2 billion on acquisitions.
Wow.
Um,
So Tim, I don't mean to
so
jump around,
sure.
but did you ever go to college and dropped out to be with
No,
your friend, or you never did? They're all self-made, self-taught.
no. Yeah. And, so, the company that I started then, I was still
You're still in Houston at this point, right?
at that point. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had started building out VoIPO, which VoIPO was a voice over IP phone service, or I guess it
Right.
still is. I still own it
Yeah.
today,
Everybody uses
actually.
voice over IP now. Then it was like, what are you talking about, right?
The
The
iPhone didn't
infrastructure.
even exist.
Yeah. I mean, the
You
whole
know,
internet infrastructure was different, right?
yeah. And
Yeah.
so really then there was only Vonage. That was really
Oh, Vonage
all
did
there
exist at
was.
that point.
Yeah, it was very early
That
stage.
was all DSL,
Um,
probably, right? It wasn't really.
yeah, I mean, like a lot of people like the broadband adoption,
Right. But
like
we didn't have
wasn't.
broadband in our homes. That was right. You might have had a T1 in your office, then maybe you could do it, right? But it wasn't like you
Yeah,
just get FiOS in your office now and you jump on the internet. So
yeah, and the
what happened? Your
logic.
your partner, he thought that VoIP was a good idea, or did he say, "Listen, find a business and I'll fund it"? And you found the idea. How did that come about? Because that's a
Oh,
new
he
concept at
he
that point.
just wanted to invest in something, and we kind of collectively, uh, you know, decided to go for VoIP. And really
Okay.
the main thing that appealed to me was that it still had that subscription revenue,
Right.
but we could sell it to a much broader market
Right.
because not everybody needed hosting, but pretty much everybody,
Needs phone.
needs phone. And so VoIPO today is 14 years old. I've since, bought him out, and so I own the company fully today. And
It
it's
still
14
operates.
years old.
Still going.
Yep. We have right around 100,000 customers or so, about 80% residential.
And is it a
And
regional, like more like down in the Houston, Dallas areas, or all over the country?
it's all over the country.
Okay.
And what basically once it had kind of gotten to a point where it was taking the majority of my time, I kind of phased out of HostGator. I was more of
Right.
like a strategic, I helped with like M&A and things like
Right. Like
that.
a consultant at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But whenever I did that, I also moved because I hated Houston. I just, it just wasn't for
Wasn't
me.
for you. Yeah.
I hated the humidity, the
Yeah,
weather.
of
Moved
course.
to Southern
Hurricane
California,
Alley.
so I'm in. I've been out here for about 10 years now, and
Like the San Diego area, or
Orange County,
okay, great.
Irvine, and
Any
Newport Beach
wildfires
area.
there, or no? Not by you.
Not by us.
Oh,
It's
good.
scary sometimes because you can actually like kind of see them in the
Really?
horizon, but that it's still far enough away that I'm not like in a high risk
Risk
zone.
area. Yeah. Wow.
Because part of the reason is that it's so built out, so it's all concrete,
Yeah.
but
There you are.
yeah, so I have that, and that business, is still, like I said, still operating today. We're pivoting a little bit with it. The residential side is still going strong, but we're focusing on business services more and more. And then that led to ProfitLayer, really, just because having a business for that long, you do get a little bit bored.
Yeah, sure.
It's
Sure. A lot of the day in and day out, you don't run necessarily. You're
yeah,
working on the
it's
business more than in the business, right? So,
right.
and that's what you should be doing at this point.
Yeah, and so the consulting firm, really, I just started working with businesses because due to all the experiences that that I had,
Right.
I was able to really go into a business and kind of help them, figure out what their actual bottlenecks are, what problems they're having, because sometimes the problem's not what they think it is, and
Right.
just help them grow. And so I work with, everything from, solo entrepreneurs. And then I also work some on the largest clients that I have are funds and investment funds and companies that I help do M&A. So I help match them with match a company with investors or a fund and help them evaluate deals. And because
Kind of
sometimes
like private equity type of stuff.
yeah, because sometimes you just have to, you have to be creative where it's like you have a company that's looking for something and you know that one fund would invest in it, except they don't like this one particular thing about it. But there's another fund that doesn't care about that. So if you connect the two together, say, hey, do you guys want to partner on this? Connect them,
Right.
take a placement fee. It's a nice little business.
Yeah.
And so I do that. And, as part of the consulting firm, it's grown over time. I just really enjoy all the different industries that I get exposure to without having to build an entire business in it. And so we have a digital agency division that we kind of just had to add because of the demand for it. So, within it, we've managed paid and digital advertising for really a pretty wide variety, but primarily companies that are already spending, at least $10,000 a month online on marketing.
Right.
And they want to scale up profitably. And so our marketing arm, that we have a lot of people that come in just for that, because we take a holistic look at things and focus on the ROI. So instead of like the vanity metrics, like your lead cost is going down and your likes are going up and all that, we're just like, what's actually making money?
Right.
And we try to manage people's advertising budgets as kind of like an independent investment advisor versus someone tied to certain funds. We manage it with the view that we are trying to protect their investment and, limit risk as much as possible, just as much as we are growing it.
So how do you develop that business in terms of prospecting? How do you generate business for that, for the consulting division, let's call it?
It's really been all referrals.
Yeah, they're just people referring. Oh,
The
Tim's great.
The only thing that I really did was put out like the very first consulting client that was a pretty decent sized deal. I literally had just posted on LinkedIn and just said, hey, I'm thinking about taking on a couple consulting clients to start some new projects or something. Let me know if anyone's interested. And then a private equity fund messaged me that I had a past relationship with, in terms of they had actually tried to buy part of HostGator once, and so I negotiated with them, but I hadn't talked to them in years, and and then they're just like, hey, do you want to help us do due diligence? And I'm like, cool, that sounds good. They'll pay it, and they offered a nice retainer, just to wait. And they're like, if we have a deal in the industry, the web hosting industry or similar, then we'll have you help us just kind of feel things out. And so that was really the first one, and then from there it just kind of a lot of referrals and networking.
Yeah, so that's what happened. You did work with them, and then you got referred from someone else who they knew, or someone you met along the way. And do you do a lot of stuff now to promote yourself from a content? I mean, obviously we're doing an interview here, but in terms of social media, like what are you doing from a business development standpoint now? Does it kind of just come?
Yeah, it still kind of comes in. I'm looking for. I mean, I turn away more people than I work with now, because I want to be, confident that whenever I initially talk to them, I really want to establish that I can actually help them move forward, and B, they're the type of client that I want to work with, and there's just it's not going to be like a draining hassle kind of thing.
Right.
And so yeah, I mean, it still have like a pretty steady flow. This year, one of the things that I have started doing is, putting myself out there more, because I'm an introvert. I generally, like a year ago, I didn't even really do podcasts or go
Right.
live or anything. And then, uh, I just started doing it to put myself out there more, and just started meeting more and more people that,
Yeah.
it was just really good relationships. So yeah, so now like, I do create some content and have a podcast, but I don't really advertise that much. It's really just networking, putting content out there that hopefully helps people and, inspires
Yeah.
people.
Thought leadership type of stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that for people listening, that's important, right? As you grow your business, you really want to build what your ideal client profile is. Not even more so than your target market. Like you're the entrepreneur, so you should be able to choose who you do business with.
Oh yeah.
Life's hard enough. You don't want to do business with people you don't like, or aggravating, or asking. Even when I got started in law early on, it's always the client who has at least the smallest client always wants the most attention. They
Right.
complain about their bills, and you want the clients that appreciate you and can pay the bills and want to use your services and can really benefit. And then you can give them the most benefit because it's a good fit in your mind. It's something you understand. It's something you can kind of get your arms around. I'm sure there's industries you don't even want to deal with. You're like, I don't really know that industry, so, and maybe their personalities are just like not, what you're looking for. So I think a lot of business owners need to, kind of don't take that for granted, that if you're going to be in business on your own, right, you should have that freedom of choice.
Yeah. And I think one of the big things with that I would add to that is that, people, oftentimes I think get caught up in thinking that, well, if I'm just, making a certain amount of revenue or a certain amount of income, that, dealing with some of that, it's all okay. Like once I get past that revenue goal, everything's just magical. But
right.
The reality is though, like if you don't think about that, and sometimes you've got to do what you've got to do, but in general, if you don't factor that in and try to, figure out like who you actually want to work with, then
right, early on, like be strategic about it.
Yeah,
right, you can't just pivot one day and say I'm going to get rid of 300 of my clients. That's going to be hard to do.
Yeah, because like the worst thing is to like have a huge company with a lot of overhead and
Right.
everything and realize that you hate it.
Yeah, I know a lot of people like that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And some people that say, I gotta make money. I gotta take this, especially now with coronavirus and everything. They're just not in their, I don't know if you ever read any of Mike Michalowicz's books. I've had him on my podcast, right? So he talked about entrepreneurial poverty. He meets all these entrepreneurs and they're poor, they're slaves to their business. I mean, you're not really an entrepreneur if you're just working for the company that you also own. That doesn't make you an entrepreneur.
Yeah. And they may have like high revenues, but it's like they just have so much overhead,
right?
And
Their
they're
profit
so
margin
tied
is
to it.
What do they say? It's what you keep that matters, not what you make, because
right.
At the end of the day, after taxes and all the other stuff, you may have nothing left. So what do you do? I think a lot of people now with coronavirus and everything are reevaluating, like, maybe they owned a restaurant or a gym or some business, a retail store, and they were just getting by anyway. It was a lifestyle business. They weren't making tons of money. They didn't understand business concepts. And I think that they're like, well, do I want to do this again? Do I want to beef up my restaurant and get inventory and hire the staff back? And I was barely making money before. Maybe there's something else I can do. And I'm not saying all of them can. It's interesting, Tim, because you are self-taught and you're really an entrepreneur. You're a guy who builds businesses, works businesses, creates value, maybe monetizes that value, recognizes that you want something that's recurring income and things like that. Some people just, they get up in the morning, they just putting out fires all day, but you just seem to have a knack for that because you were interested in it. Not everybody's like that. I mean, even people that go to college and graduate, they come out and they're lost. I think in some cases, college makes you more lost than before because you're just exposed to everything. You're like, oh, I could do anything. And then that's nothing. So I think it's interesting. Yeah. I don't know if you give yourself enough credit, but I meet a lot of people and I interview a lot of people, and most of them couldn't pivot. I mean, it just sounds to me like you could do this in almost any industry. I mean, if things changed in one industry, you'll go to another. You know how to
Yeah.
build businesses.
And, and that's really one of the things that, over the years that, that I've learned is that, I stopped worrying so much and stopped, you know, because you're always going to have ups and downs and
Always.
fires
Yep.
to put out and,
Right.
all this, but I've learned over time that, I could deal with those, and I might have, I don't know what's coming,
Right.
but if something comes up, I know that I'll be able to do something.
It'll always be
And,
something, right?
yeah, and that's really when I stopped worrying, because sometimes people are just like, well, how do you, like you have a phone company and if service goes down, then 911,
That's
and
the
there's
small
so
stuff. You
many,
can't sweat that, right?
and it's like, the way that I look at it now is just like, I know that I'll always be able to figure it out, and even just like personally, it's just like once I got to the point where I really truly felt that if I lost everything, all my businesses, had no money, nothing,
Right.
that I could, I'm like, well, it'll
climb back out, right?
yeah, it might not be a fun time for a little while, but within, 6 months to a year, I'm sure I'll be,
Right. It's
have
not
built
so
something new.
frightening. I think as human
Yeah.
beings, like worrying is like the worst emotion we've ever created, because it doesn't change the outcome, right? Actually, sometimes it makes it worse, but
Yeah.
you're worrying about something that probably 9 times out of 10 doesn't happen, right?
Uh-huh.
Your VoIP company didn't go down. That didn't happen. There might be some glitches, you run into problems, you fix them, but not the whole world just collapses. I mean, people can worry about the whole internet collapsing. I don't know, but we would figure it out, just like we're all quarantined, figuring it out now. And the more resilient people get through it. I think that's one of the things. I don't know if you've ever, for any of your businesses, written a business plan, or I'm sure you've written strategic plans or put things down on paper. I mean, people who say they don't have business plans, they're not doing it in their heads. So they have business plans. But I think that what people need to do going forward, and they haven't done this, is build resiliency into whatever their contingency plans are, their strategic plans, because of they're kind of waking up to the fact that you just got to be able to pivot. And some people did it very well, and some people did it very poorly, because they're just, like you said, it's never going to change. I always do it this way. Why would I do it differently? In the world, especially in your industry, like the tech industry, from when you
Yeah.
started
It's
to
so
now,
fast.
it's like, it's like 100 years under other industries. It's great. And then this pandemic probably puts us 10 years forward in terms of technology and the use of technology. So yeah, I think it's all good advice. So tell me, you're obviously consulting with people, you're working with business owners, you're helping.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of advice do you give and see problems that you help people solve, that kind of thing, to help the listeners kind of get a hold of whatever businesses that they're running?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously it varies a lot depending on what they're coming to me for. But one of the most common things is really just taking a kind of a zoomed out outsider look at their business and what they think the problem is, or
You
what
mean
they're trying
they
to
don't work on, they
accomplish.
don't look at it from an outside perspective? They're too caught up in the
Yeah, they
inside?
may
Okay.
they may think that, like one example is like they may think, I need to grow, I need to amp up my marketing. And then, whenever they come in, it's like we could do marketing for them, that's fine, but if we actually break it down and look at things with them, and think about things like in a line,
Right.
and we're just like, okay, so you have people come in through your marketing here, what is your sales process? And, that could be, like a salesperson or whatever. So then it's like, if the salesperson and the sales process has like a extremely low closing ratio, then
Right.
adding more marketing is just going to increase volume that is going to still be wasted
Bottlenecked.
because
Yeah.
it's bottlenecked,
Right. So it's a
and
process issue, really.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then so they're like, okay, that makes sense. So it's figuring out where, things need to be optimized, and saying, let's do this first.
Right.
And, even in very simplistic, cases, like one of the most common things with people that You know, we see this a lot with attorneys. We see it a lot with accountants, any kind of professionals like that, medical. You know, they may be advertising and doing things, but if someone were to just respond to their ad and call them, you know, and they talk to a receptionist, you know, and then the receptionist doesn't have
The
the
skills.
info
Right.
to answer their questions, to give them anything at all. Like,
No, they're just
even
there to make an appointment. They think people are just going to call
yeah.
and make appointments. They don't do that
And
nowadays.
so sometimes it's just a matter of like, you know, just equipping, you know, the person that, you know, they're going to be talking to,
Right.
you know, with some basic information, you know, about like the scope of the services, you know, the how your process usually works, and all that. Because if they just call in and, you know, they're just like, okay, yeah, you know, we'll call you back, you know, take your info, then a lot of times people will just, they're going to call others and, you know, keep
Probably. Yeah.
going.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's something that, you know, so someone in that case may say, well, I don't have a salesperson, you know, I don't really have, you know, my business doesn't need that.
Right.
But it's like, well, even if you don't have a salesperson,
You need a
there's still a
process.
process.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it could
Yeah.
be a problem. So you don't have a lead generation problem. You don't have a volume problem. You have the problem of the people and the process. This is very common, obviously, right? People, process, and product. So
Mhm.
if your process is broken, like you said, you don't even know. I mean, everybody thinks like more business will solve the problem. But like you said, it's funny with during pandemic, right? I always used to say and I still do, cash flow hides a lot of things. We can be
Mhm.
real sloppy with what we do because we just think everything's good because money keeps coming in the door and hiding the problems, and eventually it blows up. But then when something like this happens and it comes to a screeching halt and all the smoke clears, you're like, I didn't realize there were 4 holes in the floor and everything was draining out as money came coming in. And
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
think it was an eye opener, but it sounds to me like you're really helping a lot of people. So are there any, you said you work with a lot of people in the investment space, like investors looking to invest in businesses. So you're working with a lot of private equity groups or
Yeah.
private
It's
investors,
typically more the funds.
the funds, private
So
equity funds.
I'm either working typically with, you know, the business owner or a large fund, not so much private investors.
And are you helping them with their process? Are you helping them source deals? You're helping them evaluate deals?
For the funds,
Yeah.
typically, yeah. So I definitely do help them find deals.
Okay.
And then I also help some with the due diligence process, or, you know, just, and then on the opposite side too, you know, sometimes it's working with the company to pull all of the information together that they need to be able to, you know, present to you know, a fund that's interested. Because,
Right.
you know, there are certain metrics that, you know, some people are like, well, I didn't even realize that I should have been tracking this. You know, they know the basics, but, you know, they're kind of like, I haven't really tracked my churn, or, you know, my acquisition costs,
Right.
or
Yeah, all
any of
those key
that.
performance indicators. They don't even know what
Yeah.
KPI means. I mean, if you get up to large corporations, obviously they're reporting, they're doing financial statements and all that kind of stuff. But small business owners, that's one of the problems I have when I deal with small business owners who are looking to sell either to a private equity group or to another owner operator or whatever it is. They have no records.
Yeah. They don't know their numbers. I
Yeah, they
mean,
don't know their numbers. How do you prove that your dry cleaner is making a certain amount of money if most of it's cash and you don't have any records? So
right.
good luck with that. I mean, you can't monetize value that doesn't exist unless it's your friend and he knows your business is going to pay you. Beyond that,
Right.
you can't go to the marketplace. I find that's common, and business owners definitely overvalue what they have because they can't prove it. And, they
Right.
think cash flow is value, and it's unfortunately not. Like you said, you can have a $20 million business, but if it's generating $500,000 of profit, it's not worth as much as you think it is.
Yeah.
Unless it's got some potential. I mean, obviously there's buyers, right? That, like you said about this company that they sold HostGator to, they obviously had economies of scale and synergies, and they were looking
Right.
to build a marketplace. So for them, they bring in a company and they have all the equipment already. They probably can lay off half the employees and they don't need the equipment. They're running the same stuff. It works for
Yeah.
them. So
Unfortunately, that's pretty much what they
happened.
did. You know, they looked at everything as, we can move the servers to our own facilities. We can consolidate, the support teams.
Right.
And, what's interesting though, is that it hasn't worked out so well for them.
No.
All the companies they bought, the service levels, in my opinion, dropped a lot. And those companies were very profitable. They bought many of them, and now they're losing money because they're public. So
Right.
they're losing money now, when they bought over 30 profitable companies. But that's
Look, it's
just
very common, right? You lose the personal touch, you lose touch with the customer service that you need to provide to people, and that's what was driving you to begin with. All that hosting stuff is all service, right? People want to
yeah,
keep it up and running. They want to know. They want to call you. They want to be taken care of. And if they're not, they do have options. And over the years, they've had more options.
yeah, and that's really one of the the big things too. That we with any business that we see is just having the human element and uh, empathy, and just really, I mean, nothing's ever going to be perfect. Just,
No.
your services are not going to be perfect. Things are going to be late sometimes, whatever.
But just
But
admit to it. Be open
yeah,
book,
be
right?
transparent and open. And, people aren't generally expecting perfection. They're just expecting good service. And good service, is not perfection. It's just keeping them informed and, just being transparent. Like if something's going to be delayed, let them know,
Yeah. Especially
I mean,
nowadays, you
you
hear from
can't
companies
control
all the
it.
time, right? They
Yeah.
say, listen, we're delayed because our supply chain is down and, our company's in Wuhan and whatever. And, as long as they managing people's expectations.
Yeah. And, and it even in some ways, like I've seen a lot of companies during the pandemic that, they've even worried about, like they get super worried about like, well, I'm not going to be able to pay this vendor on time, and it's going to be this catastrophic thing.
So tell
And
them.
then it turns out that whenever they do that, they're like, oh, that's fine. We'll work with you. We know everything's
Right.
crazy right now.
Everybody's working with you. And they
Yeah.
usually do. I mean, people don't want to go. They don't look, if you don't work with them, the choice is you go out of business and they're chasing you for the money and it's just all kinds of aggravation. So most of the time, if you're open and honest with people and you say, listen, we have this problem, it's a short-term issue. Would you give us another 60 days? Usually they're in the position to do it or they have no choice. You got to wait. I mean, that's just the way that it works. It's just not
Yeah.
worth it going to
Versus
collection. And
if you just ignore it, and it's kind of like with anything, even even if it's the IRS, it's like if you just ignore their letters,
it's going to
and
come and bite you back at some point.
eventually they'll get it. But if you call in, like talk to them, respond to them,
Yeah, you
have
file
your
things.
accountant
Yeah,
do
of
something,
course.
then they're actually pretty flexible.
They are. Well, they have no interest. They're not sending you to jail. They certainly don't have interest in
All right.
shutting you down because then whatever little money they took out of your bank account, they're not going to get anything else.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, that's, everybody's, the IRS, they're all afraid of them. And you're right. If you work with them, just like any other creditors, like life doesn't stop. I've had clients like, oh my God, I owe $100,000 in taxes because I was sick last year. We made more money than I thought and I couldn't pay my bills and somebody left us and we lost this client.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the IRS actually has uncollectible status for people that are really bad off, and they don't collect because they determine they can't. There's nothing to collect. They're just not looking to do that. So, I think
Yep.
that's all interesting. But Tim, I want to thank you so much for participating in this thing today, for coming on the podcast. We'll get the episode out in the coming probably in the next 60 to 90 days,
Okay.
and I'll let you know all about that. But let me stop this here.